Okay, call this work session to order Wednesday, May 16th. Visitor comments.
Oh, is that like
That is now.
Come on down.
okay, what do I need to do, like state my name?
You sure do. Yep. Yep.
Judy Thompson, address? No, Judy? Okay, Judy Thompson, 185 South 4th, St. Helens, Oregon. And why I'm here today is, first of all, to thank Jenny Carlson and Susan Kahn for being long-term supporters for our NAMI walk team, National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI Columbia County. And I wanted to give you a little rundown on what we have going this year. And I have some handouts I want to pass out like super quick and talk at the same time. So since 2011,
Thank you.
my team's been an 8-year team. We've raised
I actually have one. Yeah.
We've raised a little over $50,000 that we've been able to put back into the community. And even these two Moss walked with us last year, which was awesome.
Judy,
And this year.
can I have one?
Oh, sorry. So we kind of, we're able to support programs and projects in the community that promote mental health and illness needs and peer needs. And I just wanted to let you all know how easy it is to be a participant in this. And you don't have to, nowadays everybody is, we need this, we need that for mental health, and everything costs money, and well, we can't do this, we can't do this. But however, this is a real easy way to make a statement, to do something to support our community. And you can sign up to be on our team and support us, support your Columbia County teams. It's so easy, you don't even have to physically be at the walk. You can be a virtual walker and support us. And that's one of the biggest things I'm really asking for. So if you take a brief, just read what we have given to the community over the years, I think you'll understand why I'm here and why I'm asking for your support. And the walk is Sunday, May 20th. You can go online, NAMI Walks Northwest. We have our team number right down here, or plug that in. Get yourself signed up and be part of Columbia County and the good things that we get to do for Columbia County. I think that's about I'm sign up, you guys. There's no reason why you can't.
May I add
Yes.
that NAMI has been a great supporter of our local CIT program, too.
Yeah. So it's CIT, Christmas for Peers. We've been able to do a program that's gone on for almost 19 years. It started with 2 moms about 20 years ago providing Christmas presents for Columbia Community Mental Health Peers, and many of those folks would have had nothing without those 2 moms starting this. And now, like last year, we provided Christmas $15 gift cards for 190 peers, people with CCMH. Law enforcement, education and support and programs, the Alana Club, Amani Center, Sandy School of Horsemanship. They have a Barn Buddy program that they've developed, and starting with high-risk youth, and just anywhere in the community that has organizations or drives or projects to support mental health, and we all can be a part of making the situations better, being part of this solution.
I know that you came to thank us, but I
Yes.
just want to thank you, Judy, for the level of awareness that you've raised in our community to make people that experience mental struggles feel more welcome, feel more included in our community. I just can't state that thank you for leading that,
Well, thank you.
that charge, because you make it an easy team to join.
Well, thank you. All right,
Yes,
guys.
Judy, thank you.
Thank you.
And I also want to let Chief Moss know that Officer Ludke apparently paid out of his own pocket to have somebody who was struggling mentally for a taxi to the damage in Portland.
Mm.
So I just want to let you know that. I haven't heard that, but I'm not surprised. Yes. So
We've got some great people on our team.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. We do, and if we all know each other and start working together, that is a huge connection when we start to understand what all of us do within the community with all of our different organizations and resources.
Yeah, it was witnessed by about four people up the St. Helens Alana Club, because that's where he ended up. So, yep. Okay, any other visitor comments? Okay, I got a length of service award for Thad Hoke. 20 years he has been with the city. Congratulations, Thad.
We're not gonna have you, we're not gonna ask you for a speech because it would be too long.
Okay, we're getting a little
Can you
creepy.
get one on the cheek?
The Brotherhood of Lawn Cutters.
Yeah, the Brotherhood of Lawn Cutters.
Do you have a secret sign?
All right, thank you, Thad. Okay, bid results for Section 28 timber sales. Brent Keller from MBNG.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
My name is Brent Keller. I'm with Mason, Bruce, and Gerard, which is a forestry consulting firm out of Portland. We've been managing the City of St. Helens, Milton Creek watershed forest land since 2006. And as you know, on April 27th, we opened bids for this Section 28 timber sale. There are 4 real strong bids. High Cascade, which is the log buyer outfit for WKO sawmills, and they have 3 or 4 sawmills out the gorge. I believe the wood from this sale would go to their mill in Parkdale, which is a stud mill over at kind of, I guess, south of Hood River. So it's 95% Douglas fir, so there's a few minor species, some true fir, cedar, alder, maple. The total estimated value of the sale is about $863,000. So it's kind of a quick rundown, but I'd recommend to the council accepting their bid and going ahead with it. But that's the highest price we've ever got here since we've been managing the property anyway. So
And,
very strong market. So
and we heard
hitting it
that.
just right.
And that's kind of why we're talking a little bit about having you look at that section, because there was a couple sections that were available, and
So we've been talking for a few years. Well, when the market's high, we got a few opportunities, and so
How
we hit
how close were the other bids?
we hit this just right.
Oh,
So
right.
pretty good spread there. There's nobody too. I think the minimum bid, I think I had it like 550 or so, and so it's pretty close.
Very close, yeah.
I think it is interesting. I Cascade, I think, is the furthest away, so the freight advantage that Hampton or Olympic Forest Products out of Mist, it didn't seem to affect things, but so yeah, it's a very good result. And talking to them, they'd look to start in July or so.
So Brent, what's your schedule like for availability as far as looking at other timber?
We need, you and I need to get together and look at that. What would you call that property down the old mill area? And so we just need to pin down a date. I'm pretty available. Been working on this as kind of a priority, but
Yeah.
and I drove by that area. I'm not exactly sure where you go in there, just as kind of a drive-by, but
Yeah.
definitely need to walk that together.
Are you gonna be in town for a while? Our meeting's not that long. I could take you back in there and just give you a kind of a rundown.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
not-
that'd be, I am,
Sticking to the schedule this meeting. I'm gonna keep this
Okay.
tight.
yeah.
Good incentive.
So you see the schedule about 3:00.
Well, I gotta head back to Portland about 3:30.
Okay,
So
Well, that's probably not enough time then.
maybe.
probably,
So,
Yeah, it probably would be enough time, huh?
no, I don't think so.
No.
No.
Okay.
So I was
I
gonna say
will-
either, if you don't have time, I'd be glad to show him someday or whatever.
Okay,
Or we just need to email and get some,
Yeah,
what's your,
sounds good.
the best available dates or something. But
it'd probably take, I don't know, hour or two.
we would want to be able to take plenty of time. And,
Yeah.
but you know, it's little league season, so and I'm the coach.
Right on, that's cool.
So,
Yep.
but
I also wanted to mention to John that Brent did talk to Mr. Shadley that was in here yesterday.
Oh, good.
Got that all ironed out.
Who, Bob?
Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My uncle.
Oh yeah.
Of course it is.
You're related to everybody in there.
Diane.
At least half the town.
yeah, so he had some concerns. Well, we got a property line there that we had surveyed,
Yes.
which you need to do on these.
The creek that comes off Sandberry comes through his property.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And there's some fences that were put up, and of course those I've had it where folks say, "Oh, that's the line," and I've had it where we'll survey and they actually gain, and they thought it was
Yeah.
wasn't going to be in their favor, and it's more in their favor. Sometimes it's the other way, but anyway, we always do a survey on those property lines, get it recorded. But I think his issue was not with the survey; it was that the surveyor was on his side of the line, staying out of the blackberries, and he just didn't know what was going on. So I talked to him, and he's fine with it. So. And I've stopped by the other neighbors and either left my card or talked to them. You know, any questions, let me know. There's a few directly adjacent neighbors there, so I don't anticipate any problems there.
So I'm okay with accepting that bid. It's the highest one. And he's recommending it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. That's what I need to hear. Any questions for Brent?
Okay,
Appreciate it.
so we'll be in
good.
touch.
Yep.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep. Nice night for a ball game or practice.
See, Brent and I could be related too because I'm a Keller.
Hey, any relation to Mark Keller? He sings a song called Fish On, and he's from he's from down Newport area. Mark Keller, Fish On. Google it. Okay.
Mayor, I think we need council action on that bid process
Tonight.
Yeah, it's on that.
for tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. Thank you, Brent. Request to waive permit and concessions agreement fee for Spring into Art Show. I think it's. Oh,
I am Teresa Knight, and I'm president of the Columbia Arts Guild. And we had a successful show, and I'm here to request the return of the fees that we paid for permits and concessions. Please.
Do you have the amount of that by chance? Is that up
I
there?
believe it's 121. We paid a $71 fee for concessions and a $50 fee for pub. Oh,
So
okay. So the check that we wrote for 71. Oh, okay.
so I think this is a great asset to our community. I'm for waiving the fees. I think if you came to us beforehand, you wouldn't have to go through all that process.
did.
Oh,
She did. This is the process we agreed to.
oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Right, she's following the steps
So
we gave.
how successful was the event?
We could have had more people there. We didn't do any paid advertising just because we had a limited budget. We used a lot of social media. We did a coloring contest through the schools to get the word out, and we put up signs, but we didn't have paid advertising. So in the future, I think we will try to get more sponsors and do paid advertising.
they did have a lot of vendors.
Yeah, we did.
Really excellent.
yeah, everybody was overall happy, but we always, go over what could we do better and what did we do right, and overall we're very happy.
Do you think Mother's Day weekend played a factor in a good way or in a not good way?
It was the weekend before Mother's Day,
okay.
and but it was also Cinco de Mayo, so
And
every-
it was the Ferry Festival.
yeah. So every weekend there's something going
There's
on,
always gonna be
but I thought it worked better. Last year we were in competition with the Master Gardener's plant sale, and that was tough competition. So it was better this year.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think we'll try to stick to the first weekend of May, I think, for the show, if that works for everyone.
Super.
I move we waive the fee.
I'll second.
A motion's been made and seconded to move the fee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And
Yep.
we have postcards that my husband John actually took this picture, and we made some field cards. So
Thank you.
Oh, very nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Thank John.
So is that the chieftain or is that
it's the
Lady Washington? Okay,
we're in a helicopter when we come down.
that's great.
Thank you very much.
Uh-oh.
Did I accidentally hit the button?
Oh, my.
They're not telling me away, are they?
Oh, I'm sorry if I did. Okay, so
Think I was
it
going to
worked.
get that ruckus with my
We
presentation?
had our annual test. Yeah,
We know it works
it's
now.
been a long time since we pushed it, so we needed to do that.
I wasn't even actually in that direction at all, so that kind of, maybe it was somewhere else in the building. Okay, Purpose Development Code Amendment for auxiliary dwelling units and home occupations. Jacob.
Yeah, before that, quickly, one difference between logging our watershed property, which is in the county, not subject to city law, and our own property is our wetland rules. And around the mill property, some wetlands are significant according to the city. That means it has an upland protection zone. So you have the boundary of the wetland, and then you have a certain protection zone, which is either 50 or 75 feet. And the way that code was designed, as adopted by the council in 2003, is trees within that protection zone are protected as if they were in the wetland. So that's an important thing to be aware of, because some of those are virgin protection zones that haven't been impacted. So just
So if we, like what was requested by staff, get the wetlands delineated in the whole property?
yeah, you would, if they were delineated, you know where those boundaries were, then you know where it's safe to cut. And
I
where
don't
it's
have
not.
the ability to make a motion on that, do I?
Well, it's not a-
here.
Oh, I see. You're trying to.
If we want to push this through, it's an outsourced project. To be the first step in that whole mill property is to get the wetlands delineated. But I can't make a motion because I'm mayor, so I don't know what the rest of the council feels about that.
Well, it doesn't mean that you can't evaluate it and assume some buffers. I mean, you can still go out and do an inventory of what's there.
But it's the first step in the process of developing that property, no matter what we do.
Right.
As recommended from staff.
Yeah, the danger of, because you have wetlands all over.
Yes.
So you're going to develop this in the next 5 years, this in the next 10 years. Usually, almost always, people will get a wetland concurrence with the Division of State Lands.
Yes.
That means the state's cool with it, but that's only good for 5 years. So you kind of want to be strategic about what you do.
We need to know within the next 5 years.
Yep.
Probably within the next year. So what's the process for that?
You have to hire a wetland consultant.
Making a phone call and writing a check?
Essentially, yeah.
So
Probably a personal services contract or something like that.
I'll make the motion that we have staff start that process.
I'll second.
Discussion? Okay.
I've been concerned talk about that because I know that there's wetlands and I know that we have rules such wetlands. So I was waiting for us to kind of get that process to figure out what's where. So this is a good first step.
And we go above and beyond state requirements. We have in our code a 25-foot more foot setback, right?
The state does not have a buffer. I guess they used to,
Oh, really?
but they don't. Yeah. So
Okay.
for some reason they adopted a buffer. You know, I wasn't here back then.
Yeah. Okay, I just know that from what we'll also have on our hearing tonight. You know, so.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where.
If we're in question or discussion, Matt, can you help us and tell us where these funds will come from, who's paying for it?
For that specific property, it would come out of the Economic Community Development Fund that has the Economic Planning Department and then the Boise Veneer Property Department and the White Paper Property. So we have professional services amounts budgeted each year for that. And you do have available funds that even if you had to expend a check this year, I don't know how much it would cost, but I would anticipate you should not have any issues.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
So sorry, I just heard that and I want to.
That's right. So I got a motion though. The motion's been made and seconded to have staff make the phone call and get that process going. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, Jacob.
Okay, so before we formally embark on legislative amendments, we're supposed to get a blessing from the council. What the code says is the council must approve the concept. So we don't have to really dig in the weeds. We certainly could if you want to, but it's basically we need your blessing to officially move forth. There's a couple things in the works, and those are amending our auxiliary dwelling unit rules, and then we're also changing our home occupation rules. So auxiliary dwelling units, we've had rules that allow those for a long time, longer than I've worked here. And what an auxiliary dwelling unit is, if you haven't heard the term, it's been in kind of the news and in the cat housing study and other things lately, but it's basically an accessory dwelling unit. And that's an important characterization because if it's an accessory rather than being a duplex, for example, it's a little easier to work with the code. We've had auxiliary dwelling, like I said, those ADU rules for a long time. Given the affordable housing issues in the region and studies and other things that have come out, there's a lot of best practices out there, and our rules don't really follow them very well. For example, requiring to get a conditional use permit in a public hearing, which is usually, when someone asks us that, we tell them that and they go running out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also an owner occupancy requirement, which is tough to enforce and is also seen by those in the industry as a barrier to these units. And so what we're doing is amending our law to correspond better with the best practices as recommended by DLCD, Community Action Team, and so forth. So it's a more viable, affordable housing option. I should note, since I've been here and I have never seen one in the file, even though it's in our code, I don't think anybody has ever applied for a conditional use for auxiliary dwelling unit.
There was that one that is on Columbia Boulevard that is not actually in the city limits, but it was in the county, and they popped it over here, and they had to go through 100 hoops, and they're having their mother and father live there while they're failing health.
Yeah,
And
that's
they jumped through 1.5 million hoops.
that's a temporary hardship.
But under these rules, that could be considered an auxiliary dwelling unit.
Potentially. Yeah, I don't know if it would work with the county's rules. I just read the county's, which has a maximum size of 750 square feet, which I don't even know if a single wide is that small.
I think the one that was at that location probably would be right at that.
But yeah,
it
would
was
be
sad to watch. It was really sad to watch.
This is like to cover like a mother-in-law apartment in the backyard or something.
Yeah, that's
like
one of the
that,
classic common terms.
Right.
So it makes it permitted instead of conditionally permitted, and it streamlines some other things. So we're basically amending our rules to make them a little bit better. There was a Senate Bill 1051, written into law in August of last year, which said cities with a population greater than 2,500, of course we're 13,000 plus, need to adopt reasonable regulations for them. And I think our regulations currently probably would pass that. What's reasonable, what's unreasonable, that's always kind of a nebulous thing in law. But we don't want you to get beat up because a lot of cities are amending their laws. And when people go to other cities, why is St. Helens still in the dark ages? Obviously, sometimes you not hearing the complaints is us doing our job. So that's why we said, we really gotta amend these rules. So we're doing that. The other thing we're doing is amending our home occupation rules. So home occupation allows a business in a home with certain restrictions. You can't turn a home into a grocery store. But you can have a small area set aside for a hairstylist or a consultant or something like that. And in the city, and these have been in the books for a long, long time. In the city, we have a type 1 and type 2. Type 1 home occupations mean there's no evidence that there's a business going on. So someone comes in, say, I want to start a online sales business. I make gadgets and I want to sell them online. And so, they talk to everybody up front. Okay, well, yeah, you need a business license. And then, okay, I see it's based out of your home. You need home occupation. The type 2 home occupation means there is evidence that there's a business going on. For example, there's actually people going to the business.
So like the hairstylist.
Yeah, exactly. And in my time, I've seen a lot of these type 1s, and it's just, in my opinion, a bureaucratic waste of time. I remember during the recession, it seemed like we had an uptake in home occupations, and just going through the template over the years, it's like, why am I doing this? We're charging a fee for something which has no purpose. The type 2s, yeah, there's evidence, there's potential impact to neighbors, but the type 1, I don't see the point. I haven't seen the point for several years. Jenny definitely agrees with me. And
there has been a couple times when a type 1 has violated their rules.
Yeah, in which case it should have been a type 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there has been those, like the Misty Fox case, for example. Right. And clearly it should have been a 2. And I think in that case we kind of said, well, look, you're not confined within your type 1 parameters. So basically what we're proposing to do is exempt those home businesses that don't really have outward appearance from the rules and just focus on the type 2s. I think from a business-friendly standpoint, it's eliminating senseless bureaucracy and allowing people to be entrepreneurs who, if successful, could become entrepreneurs who actually open storefronts.
So they still need to get a business license?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're not changing that. This is just the land use component.
Right.
So now more often we'll say, oh, great, you don't need this extra permit. Because people come in, oh, you need this, and they're, so it's a little bit less intimidating.
Do you know when this started, the land use permit? When did this, since you've been here, is that what you said?
No, longer, much longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a long time.
Years ago, it used to be by conditional use permit. And sometime, I don't know if it was the 90s, early 2000s, they changed it to an administrative one. And I guess this is this continuum of evolution where, well, did the type 1s really need us to push paper for? I don't think so. I think it's there's better use of our time, especially with all this property the city owns now, where we have this whole new thing that we're having to focus on.
Yep.
So that's what we're doing.
I guess how are we going to regulate that as far as being watchdog to make sure it isn't a type 2?
Well, you know, they come in the door and we talk to them, and
Well, I mean, a lot of them actually turn into, they start out as a type 1 and then they turn into a type 2 over time is generally what happens.
it's the classic, like anything, like sheds.
Right.
You know, it's all complaint based.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're right. Yeah, we'll hear neighbors say that, well, there's a lot of traffic going on.
Yeah, and if there is, and typically a business will want to advertise. So let's say, yeah, there's just all these people coming in and out, and then you find, oh yeah, John Doe's Home Tax Service.
Or new drug house.
Then it's then we talk to
Different issue.
the police.
Yeah, make sure they have a business license. That's funny, Kathy. Okay, any other questions for Jacob?
So I need your blessing.
Yeah, I'm a yay.
Yeah, the planning commission went over a lot of things and had a pretty healthy conversation, and I feel confident that staff
Well,
can.
you said even that
move
state
through
state bill,
process.
state bill 1051, kind of freed up things too, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to make us a little more bulletproof in regards to that bill. Right now, we probably comply, but is it as reasonable as it could be given what everybody else is doing? And then this is going to fit us more into that
Well,
reasonable
Makes
category.
us more business friendly.
Yeah.
When I look at, in the time that Jacob's been here, he's not seen anybody even attempt it, so that says something about our ADUs. That mother-in-law cottage, nobody's even, like, as soon as they hear the stipulation or all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
steps, they're like,
Discouraged.
Yep.
Yeah, that our rules for the ADUs are really a barrier now. And so basically it would allow, as long as you can meet setback, lot coverage requirements,
Sure.
stuff like that. Homes developed with a detached to single-family dwelling or manufactured home would be eligible for an auxiliary dwelling unit. So that could, in the long run, result in many new units within town without creating lots.
So do you need consensus or
Yeah.
a motion?
Yeah, we need to make sure that you approve the concept so we can officially move forward.
make a motion to allow Jacob to move forward with the planning commission changes.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to let Jacob go with the planning commission's recommendations. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Okay, review recreation program job description, Matt.
There are 2 job descriptions in your packet. One is for the part-time recreation coordinator that was approved recently by the budget committee, and that will be a .5 position, as well as the recreation assistant position. That is an hourly position that I would anticipate hiring probably 3 to 4 individuals that work anywhere between 1 to 10 hours a week or so on some of the evening and weekend events to help whoever is in the recreation position or with events that are going on in the school or in the parks or anything, to help set up, open doors, take out trash at the end, that kind of stuff. So these 2 job descriptions are in the packet for tonight. The union has reviewed the recreation coordinator position. The recreation assistant position does not meet the hourly requirements to be a union position. The one thing that I will let you know, the union had a request on the recreation coordinator position that there be a memorandum added to the union agreement that states if there is a current employee that applies for it, and there is some sort of a job sharing as far as 0.5 as a rec coordinator, 0.5 as something else, that if that person is hired, the 2.5s essentially create a full-time job, so they would still have benefits, they would still have rights as a union member, all the basic stuff. So I didn't anticipate any issues with that, so I said that shouldn't be a problem, but I wanted to let you know now that the attorneys are working on that memorandum, and that will be in front of you as soon as possible, as soon as they get done working on that.
So it doesn't show the recreation coordinator as a supervisory position. Would that not be necessary with the assistants? for it to be?
That probably delves into a little bit of a deeper conversation that we're going to have in the near future about where the recreation department falls under and as it develops as a program and what that position entails as it hopefully gets into a full-time position. That's probably a discussion to have later. Right now, the thought process between talking with John and I was that it would fall under the administration, and then someone in the administration department would oversee that coordinator position, who would then also oversee the assistants and do any kind of scheduling. So we did not put any supervisory specific words in the recreation coordinator position at this time.
So this is basically a placeholder to be more fully developed later?
Correct. That's what I would anticipate.
Okay.
Just because I don't know how soon it would become a full-time position or if it would even become a full-time position depending on the success of the programming.
Right.
And do you have timelines outlined for that proposal and moving forward?
I do in a rough timeline that I've talked about with John and Shauna, who's been helping get the program started right now. We've kind of have a rough timeline of those set marks and goals and dates. And a lot of it really hinges on this first few months of programming to see how successful the classes that we're anticipating and all that stuff.
When could the council or concerned employees see that timeline?
I would be happy to share that probably at one of the next meetings when we start talking about the rec program a little bit more. I've kind of held back a little bit because it obviously has to be approved by the budget, which will go in front of you in June. So once that's approved, then I'm happy to, and always more than happy if you want to talk one-on-one individually. If you want to sit down and chat kind of where we're at and where we see ourselves going, but we'll be happy to share that.
I think as a council member, I need to be prepared to answer questions from employees and citizens as well.
Yep.
And at this point, I can't.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that sitting down and meeting with you would be appropriate for me, but the rest of the council might want to involve themselves in that too, and that's why maybe sharing it with the entire council would be appropriate.
Yep. Part of my department reports will touch on the rec program and where we're at as well. So I will give you a little bit of an update.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt.
And the only thing I also wanted to mention is, so these are on the docket for tonight to post. We have programs and events starting in June, which is obviously before the new budget year. If it's okay with the council, I would like to get a consensus of posting this job as soon as possible for both of these jobs to get somebody in as soon as we can and officially get started. That may be a small impact to the budget. A part-time rec coordinator position for 1 month would only be probably $1,500, $2,000. And then the hourly staff for those June events may be a few $100s. You're talking probably 10 or so bucks an hour for those assistant jobs. So it's not a huge expense, but I wanted to see if the council was okay moving forward with those positions if they were approved tonight.
Well, I think it's $2,000 well spent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anxious to get started.
Were there any questions about the positions or job descriptions that you see?
Nope.
Pretty comprehensive.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
I have a question. I wanted to go back to your comment about 2 half-time positions being filled by a single employee. I mean, obviously the library has a lot of part-time employees, so the question for me then would be, if one of my part-time employees was a viable candidate for this job, then would the budget be revised to cover those benefits?
That would be something the council would have to approve and either change it during a supplemental budget, which it could do. The only kind of barrier for a current employee to do that is in our personnel policy, you have to get approval. So they would have to come and get approval from you to apply for this position.
Okay. All right.
Good question, though, Margaret.
I guess a follow-up question based on that. When job sharing happens, it's a person would have scheduled hours at one position and scheduled hours at the other position. So is that the part that would, by having a supervisor sign off? Because obviously to me, if somebody's part-time in parks, it would be difficult for them to also do this job. Just logistically, to walk away from cutting the grass at 12:15, it's time for me to go do my Parks and Rec part. Is that the part where the supervisor agrees to that or not?
That's part of the discussion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, the approval of a secondary job is technically for anyone. So even if I were to get a job at Fred Meyer or something, I would still need to get approval from John to say, yeah, you can go cut meat at, Fred Meyer or whatever I want to do or something. Is that sort of
Matt the Butcher?
Just trying to figure out how to balance that 20 and 20, what that looks
correct? It would it would take some discussion into that. I would say rather than not essentially wasting time, but taking 20 or 30 minutes to discuss it now as a group before I have applicants and decide who we want to hire may be a little premature. So that may be a discussion to have when we get our pool of applicants and find someone who we think is a good fit.
Super.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, review resolution establishing local limits for discharge of pollution. Sue.
Mayor Scholl, that actually was something that Johnny and I decided we would take off the agenda.
Okay.
He's working with, I think, DEQ to determine if it should be an ordinance, not a resolution.
Okay.
And
Sounds
so
good.
it'll also be off, the resolution will be off of tonight's agenda.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, so we're really ahead of schedule. This is great. Department reports. Terry, I didn't press the button.
I appreciate that. Thank you. As this meeting is moving along at a record pace, maybe I'll slow it down a little bit. I don't have much in the way of department reports, but I wanted to say, and I wish he was here to hear it, but I don't think it can be overstated the impact that Judy Thompson and NAMI has had on the police department. She introduced me to NAMI probably 8 years ago when she came to us and wanted to start sending our officers to CIT training. And we, of course, then did not have a program in Columbia County. So with her support and money, we started sending officers to Clackamas County and Cowlitz County. And anyway, we found great value in the training, but agreed at the very beginning that we needed to do something like that here and replicate that here and have an even greater impact of that program. So it was her that really started the conversation and this idea in my head about creating CIT in Columbia County. So she deserves a lot of credit for the successes we've had. And the stuff you were talking about with the officer and the taxi cab thing,
yeah.
I won't blame that all on CIT, but that whole approach and how we work with people who are in crisis, not just mental health crisis, but just crisis period, is because of the work that she's done in our community. And Susan is a big part of that. There's a lot of people that helped change that. And like I said, it can't be overstated, the impact that they've had and the support they've given us. So I'll be right there with them this weekend on that walk. She should have bragged a little bit more about her team. They're one of the top 3, I think, fundraisers in the whole NAMI Walks program. They're doing a lot of great work, and we were benefited again from the money that she raised just a couple weeks ago when we brought a gentleman in to teach a program to almost every law enforcement officer in the county over 2 days. It was some of the most impactful training we've had that I can ever remember, and she helped pay for it with NAMI. So anyway, she's not here to hear this, but I just wanted to say it. I think they're doing a great job for us. And that's all I got. Oh, yeah. All right. Customer service training. Sue and I are, thanks for bringing that back up. Not everybody in the council will remember because maybe you weren't here then, but 8 years ago, is that right? Yeah. 7 or 8 years ago, with the support of the council, Sue and I went to California and became trainers in a customer service delivery program. And we had a lot of great feedback, and I think it was incredibly successful. Some of the things that we're doing today came from that program, the ideas that came out of that. So anyway, what I'm getting at is we want to do it again for the employees that are here that weren't here 8 years ago, and there's a bunch of them, 31 or 32 of our current staff members weren't here back then. And when I say back then, every employee of the city, from library, parks, police, everybody went through it. Anyway, we're going to do it again over 2 days, the 2nd and 4th weeks of June, and try to get as many as we can into that 2-day program. So, yeah, I hope that you'll come. It'd be great if you came for all of it. If you can't, come for part of it, just to see what comes out of it. One of the really neat things that I think I got out of it anyway was when you sit down towards the very end and let the group talk about ways that they can better serve our internal and external customers, and let them brainstorm and come up with ideas. And we do this exercise with little sticky notes and cover the wall, literally cover the wall with sticky notes of ideas on how we can better serve our community and serve each other. It's pretty powerful stuff. And like I said, some of the stuff that came out of that work session 8 years ago was still being done today. So I look forward to doing that again next month and seeing what else comes up and sticks on that wall over there. So it'll be pretty cool.
Great.
All the same things. I don't have really anything else. We've finished a couple of those big projects that we started.
Those guys moved right along, didn't
Those guys moved along and did a great job
Yep.
getting ready to pave and restore, get everything restored. So very, very happy so far with the work that they did out there on Columbia. And yeah, that's about it. We're getting ready to put out a couple more little contracts for the summer and moving right along.
All right. Thank you, Sue. Neil?
I just wanted to announce that we hired a new employee. His name is Bryson Takamoto.
Oh.
And he's very happy to get him. He's actually worked on our summer crew a couple years, so we kind of know what we're getting. And,
Yep.
I think
It was a great help to Citizens Day in the Park.
good.
Yep.
Glad to hear that. So yeah, we think he's going to be very good.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Neil. Margaret?
I just wanted to let you know that Crystal has been working with the library. We're going to start a social media presence for the library, and we're going to have a soft rollout in the month of May so that everything's in position for when we start summer reading in June, which is our busiest month of the busiest season of the year. Also, the Friends of the Library has a quarterly art show, and typically they kick it off with an artist talk, and then the artwork is on display for the rest of the month. But this time we decided to do it a little differently, and the artist talk will be at the end, and we were hoping that as people come through and see the art, they'll be more motivated to come and listen to the artist at the end. I would encourage you, if you're over in the building, to take a look. It's all out in the lobby this time. We're going to try something different there as well. We've put all the display cases that we have together with the permanent case that's out there, all out there in the lobby, and we're going to actually have the talk out there. But the subject is urban sketching and plein air painting. And the Columbia Arts Guild is the group that meets weekly at the Columbia Center. And what they frequently do is go out into the community and sketch or paint. And so this show includes a lot of things around town you'll recognize. There's the Napa Auto Parts place and the fire station and Dairy Delish. So, and there are also other scenes of other urban environments, but the show includes some of their sketchbooks, so they're opened up to pages that are particularly stunning. So a lot of people, I watch the security cameras, so I see people stopping and looking at the art show. So if you get a chance, pop in during the month of May, and then the actual artists will talk about their work on the 31st at 7 o'clock. So that's easy to remember, the last day of the month. The last thing I'd like to mention is that our collaborative efforts to try to bring Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to Columbia County are going extremely well. We have a group that consists of people from Vernonia, Scappoose, Columbia City, and St. Helens. These are, in some cases, social service organizations or service clubs, Friends of the Library, just private citizens. We're have a really great effort going. United Way of Columbia County has agreed to be the fiscal agent, and we're actively starting to seek grant funding from all different sources to sustain this program. We want to reach out and get the necessary funding for the first 2 years so that we can be assured of being able to meet the demand of children 0 to 5 who want to enroll in this program that provides books to them on a monthly basis. And we're also organizing quickly because we want to secure a 50% match that's being offered to many organizations like ours in rural Oregon who want to see us have this program, and that's being offered by the James and Shirley Rippey Family Foundation. So in order to secure that 50% match, we have to bring this group into existence and enroll our first child by the end of June. But the focus right now is on fundraising. So I just went with Kathy Beck from United Way to talk to Rotary today at lunchtime, and that kind of effort will continue. So it's a wonderful program, and we think it does a lot to get books in the hands of children so that they are reading with their families and are better prepared to learn to read themselves when they get to school. And that's all I have.
Matt.
Just a few things you should receive in your email or in the mail fairly shortly if you haven't already, and a questionnaire from the audit team. It's about their time to get started on doing a pre-visit in June, and so they send out questionnaires to the council members asking if you've had any experience with, or you see anything that resembles fraud or you're worried about something. So please fill those out and either give them to John or email them back to the auditing company, or you can give them to me and I can give them to them. However you want to do it, it makes no difference to me as long as eventually they get to the auditor. So, so please check your email. That should be coming shortly.
I seen it today.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Sweet. Wanted to give you a quick update on the court. As far as the department, I'll let kind of Keith touch on because he was at the last meeting that we had on some of the stuff that we talked about and we're planning. But specifically for the staffing that we have there now, we still don't have a prosecutor. When we went out for the RFP, if you remember, we received one response, which was from the current judge, and then we received 4 others for the actual judge position. What I would like to propose is us, at least for the time being, moving our judge, Cindy Phillips, into a pro tem prosecutor position until we continue to have these meetings and figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what the future of that department and position is.
So if I'm referred to as Your Honor, does that mean I could fill in as a judge?
I don't think you would meet the requirements.
Okay, I just asking.
So what time frame are you looking at as far as temporary?
That is really dependent on these meetings that we're having with the county and the council's desire to move forward in some direction in some way. So I would like to offer the position definitely as a pro tem in the title, so that we know that it's a temporary position. I have briefly talked to Cindy about the possibility of that, and she is very open to that idea. I do believe, at least for the time being, in what we need to get done, because the inbox is getting pretty high now,
Sure.
that it's time we need to kind of start moving.
So this would mean operating temporarily pretty much the way that we have been until we decide the direction we're going.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. So it would be a short-term contract, kind of probably a rolling contract or so with Cindy. And then I would like to set up interviews with the RFP responses that we received for the judge. And so I'm assuming I would be great to have at least a couple council members on that committee. Obviously, it's a position you guys appoint and hire. So if I can get a couple volunteers for that, I'm hoping to set those up as soon as possible, if not next week or the week after. So if you want to be part of that, please let me know, and I can put you on the committee, and we can look at dates and all that kind of stuff. So, and then obviously it does come back to the council for full approval as a recommendation or anything like that. So,
I'd like to.
Okay, I'll put you on the list.
I would like to see Keith be part of that process. He has all the historic knowledge of the court and prior and stuff, and he just has a good community base to make.
I haven't been over there that much.
But you've been on this council for a long time, and you've seen kind of the progress, and you're a good neutral voice.
I think it's appropriate if you want to, Keith.
You know,
that's fine.
your
Keith,
work with
Keith
the
would be
police, I
great
think,
because
is
he's
important.
obviously in the meetings.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and all of his work with the police and the community, I think he's a good voice.
Yep. Okay. So I'll work on setting up a committee for that and getting those interviews started. I do want to briefly just mention the recreation program is getting started. Be here before you know it. Our first events are the first and second Friday and Saturday in June. So
Nice.
we have the printing shop that is going to print and mail out the letters. I am told those are going to the mail on Friday. So those should be going out and sent out to every household address within St. Helens zip code, Columbia City, and Warren. So it's almost about 10,000 households that it'll hit. On that note, we do have the recreation page on our website. We also have registrations. As of right now, we're using Eventbrite for registrations for some of the classes, paint nights, and do-it-yourself classes that we have. So that is on the website now, and I'm working with Crystal to do some outreach on social media to get that out there. So we've already had a few registrations already, but we obviously want to continue that. So so that you'll see that on social media coming out soon. And I think that's about it.
All right. Kathy.
I just want to acknowledge that tonight on the agenda, there's a couple proclamations.
Uh-huh.
One is for Police Week, which happens to be this week.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but on social media, Crystal's been doing a really good campaign of acknowledging our police officers
Yes,
and
I've seen that.
our staff there. So that proclamation's on there. And then next week is Public Works Week. So there's a proclamation for that. And just a reminder that the Public Works Breakfast is this Friday morning.
Oh, it's this Friday. That's always
Thank
good.
you.
That was good last year.
Yes, it's this Friday,
Yes.
Friday the 18th. We'll be there with food ready at 7:30. Come on by, please. We'd love to have you, everybody.
That's a good tradition.
Thank you.
Okay, Tina.
Tina Curry Consulting. I also want to thank Jenny and Susan and Chief Moss for taking a really active role in something that I personally supported in the past 2 years with the NAMI team. And I see the good deeds being done and encourage everybody to help them out. I wanted to report to you on a couple of different things. The first would be the merchants meeting that we had on Monday. It went really well. We had just under 20 people attend, and the merchants are feeling like it's just a really good resource for them to find out what's going on that they miss in council meetings and decisions that you guys make and things that are going on that they otherwise would not hear about. And Jenny has been keeping me in touch with the Gateway Project and some of the signs that we might be able to get up sooner than we thought, which is awesome. Everybody is really excited about that. And they are also really, I'm going to send out an email to all the merchants regarding the social media campaign to update websites and get correct information for the tourists. They were happy and willing to take a look at participating in that. The topic of the evening, I would say they had the most discussion was, of course, parking. And I let them know that we were exploring maybe some parking solutions, but it came to my attention that most of the, I'm not going to say most, but some of the retail locations that are down here, their staff is not parking in the free parking areas. They're parking right in front of their stores. And that is a good idea to just tell them to park in that free parking area.
That for years.
Yeah.
Well, my
First
point,
step.
yeah, my point being is that if we took all the retail merchants together and we added the employees up, you probably would have 20 to 30 more parking spaces in front of businesses if the employees were parking in the free parking areas. So that was something that they were strongly going to recommend to their staff in the future while we are researching possible temporary parking options. The riverfront development was really discussed as far as just the future of bringing new commerce to St. Helens and the area, and everybody is very positive and looking forward to that. We also did an update of the map, so the map is coming along. We should have that within the next 2 weeks, a real hard copy. And John was there. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think it was a good meeting.
Yeah. The second thing that I have a question on is the 4th of July activities. We've got lots of food vendors and the Elks, and we have trash campaigning going on, bell ringing. We have patriotic singers that are coming around 4 o'clock. Then we have the flag raising, and we also, of course, have Hit Machine coming, and everything's kind of falling into place. I have a question on whether or not we would want to have Festival of the Ferries open on the 4th of July as part of the package that people get when they buy their parking passes for tailgating. But before I get to that, are we doing it on Sand Island? Where's that going? Keith had some conversations with people that said that they would be willing to assist, and John is working with the fireworks group that does the sparkles and pops.
Right.
So
That was my question too.
Well,
Where?
I kind of said it was last minute too, because I have been doing this for quite some time.
Yeah.
My family did it for years. Ed Lockett is my uncle, of course. Neil. And it is last minute when it comes to fireworks season. And it's going to cost a lot more. And everybody that's seen the email,
Well, I
it's
thought
not
we
that we're
signed
not
a 2-year deal.
trying to help people out that want it over at Sand Island.
Yeah, of course.
It's the last hour.
Yeah.
How much more is a lot more?
So
a lot more
Quantify
work.
that? No,
Yeah.
I mean dollar-wise, how much more?
It is more dollars. It requires her having to actually reapply for permits last minute, which may not even be available now.
Question, how much?
I asked that question, and as even as of yesterday, communicated on. I don't have a number yet, but it's
we have a range?
She's receptive to the effort.
Okay, good.
Recognizing that there would be, you know, she's already
little
done a lot
more-
of work, so she
yeah.
would
Listen, I would like to.
compensated for that.
I would like to please everybody too. It's the best spot to shoot them, but it's too little, too late. And I don't know about the Fairy Festival having that up for the 4th. That's not a tradition.
No, definitely not. It would just be an extra activity for people to participate in while they're hanging out and waiting for the fireworks. Something to do.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that.
Okay.
Yeah, just making it clear.
Okay.
Of which, both?
Yeah, well, if you think you can do it at a reasonable rate and they can get all the permits through, fine. But how much time and effort are you guys going to spend on it getting there?
I'd like to see us move to Sand Island if we could.
I think most of the effort's going to be on the
Yeah.
It'll take some assistance with Public Works and to barge the materials over there cooperatively, but most of the work's the permitting and things that the contractor is doing.
Just the other side note that's not on your list, but because I'm part of the CERT team and they always ask me to volunteer, and normally I would have gotten a schedule by now. So if we have not talked to Holly about doing parking over there, we probably should do that sooner than later.
Yeah.
Because she won't be able to get volunteers if we wait much longer.
Yeah. Okay.
Holly did come in a few days ago. So.
Yeah. And then I want to report on Festival of the Fairies, which we had approximately 500 people come from out of town. And the guests were overall very happy. And the biggest comment that we had feedback on was just that when they were in town and they were finished doing the festival activities, then they were coming downtown and wondering, why aren't these businesses open? How come there's not more, things to do on the main street in town? And that continues to be a pervasive problem that we're all familiar with. But I did want to let you know that 2C's was fairly busy, and that they had a lot of people, especially on the second weekend. And Running Dogs, I also spoke to them yesterday, and they said they had a lot of families coming in over the weekend. So it was really added to their bottom lines. And that was despite the fact that we didn't get on the event calendar for, in the public in general. So we did some outbound advertising in Portland, and most of the people came, interestingly enough, from Ridgefield and Woodland and Beaverton.
You think they got binoculars over there?
I don't know what's going on. Something's going on over there.
Tina, how important is it to have it down here on the waterfront? It seems to me like the McCormick Park with the grass and looking at it as more of a kind of a kid's application for with that park there, all the playground equipment, all those kinds of things. Did you consider McCormick Park, or is this?
Well, it would be a lot more expensive at McCormick Park because you would have to fence it, the whole thing. So it would be spendy to do it there.
Could you do bracelets? Would that be cheaper than fencing?
Well, it doesn't matter because that means anybody can go in. There's no control.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I
And
would have liked to, if we had another event going on at McCormick Park or at the library, that it would have been nice to have collaborated with if they were in proximity.
Yeah,
So
I think that most of our people came, like I said, from out of town. It was more like, in fact, I had grandparents come up and tell me that was the best experience they've ever done with their grandchildren.
So the
They brought
fencing,
8 people.
The fencing is the issue.
Fencing is an issue, and I do believe that proximity to downtown and the restaurants is key.
Yep.
Because the reason we're doing this is to bring people here that are going to eat at the restaurants and visit the merchants.
Hang around for my report because it's pertinent to what you're saying.
The reason I thought about McCormick Park too was because there's trees and grass there as opposed to gravel.
Yeah. But if our purpose is to bring people that then come here to spend money, we want to make the money in close proximity for them. Like a lot of people went to Running Dog to eat, and if they went to Running Dog to eat, probably they were also at Klondike and Dockside, but I just haven't talked to them. So the other thing is that vendors are involved. Vendors require power and bathroom facilities and just some things like that. But my biggest interest is in, of course, driving money to the merchants. So I don't know how I would necessarily do that if it was at the park.
Well, what about over in Columbia View Park? At least, it would be grass rather than gravel.
Columbia View Park. Well, I don't think there's enough room there.
No, there's not.
No.
Move things a little closer together.
It would be really close together. It would be on top of
It's
each other.
definitely a learning process, though, because I mean, I think that even just from one weekend to the next, it was better.
Well, it rained one weekend, the whole
Experience gets better
weekend.
and better as we learn what people want, and what people like.
Yeah, for sure. So, and the other comment I would say is that a lot of people locally said that they didn't hear about it, but I have questions about how many of them would attend a paid an event where you have to pay, even though there was huge discounts if you went to Running Dogs and got a slip.
I think it was in both papers. And
No.
Wasn't it?
No.
I could have sworn I saw something.
We ran advertising, social media advertising, but we weren't on the event calendars.
Well, I'll tell you.
Oh,
now.
I didn't think you were there. I thought that they ran a little article about it, but maybe it was after the fact.
Maybe. Doug?
Sorry.
John and Crystal and myself met with some business owners in the area, the downtown area, and they had suggestions. It was positive, some positive criticism for that event. Is they felt that if they had a kind of a schedule of what the festival was on paper, a stack of papers or whatever, so that if people came into their restaurant or their business, that they could go, oh, here, take this, because not everyone has the phones and is not on the media that way. And they thought that that would be really very helpful, not only to the people who are coming from the outside just so that they could see what was going on, but it would help you in terms of distributing more information to more people. And so what I got from that is if there was a lot of elderly people wanting to kind of know what that was all about, because they're kind of out of the social media loop, and they aren't getting it. But that's the positive thing that we got. And then one other thing that I thought was interesting is that if we could have more effective signage in the area of the event, and I saw your two flags or your two banners down on the entryway of the Ferry Festival. I thought that.
And then we had street signs and the gate sign.
Let me
too.
finish, and then that comment of hanging large banners of what that Ferry Festival is all about, what the dates will be, the timelines, those kinds of things would really help. Especially if you have a fence there, that you could use a banner or you could use something like that. So those are positive, I think, remarks that came back. And it wasn't, I don't think any of those were extremely critical. They just said this would really help us promote.
So we should probably just make more banners, because there is a banner on the main entryway that tells them.
I would agree with that. It's fairly cheap to do that, but with development eventually happening down there, I could envision actually a big monitor of sorts over there that says Columbia View Park, and it's got all the events upcoming, 4th of July. So I would ask our community to be patient with us, that there will be, that
it
park
takes
is
time
going
to
happen.
get everything
that
going.
Park is going to happen too, and it will be expanded to where it would. And I can definitely envision something like that happening, especially with all that we have going on. 15 nights, You could highlight who the musicians are. You could say then 4th of July up and coming with Hip Machine and whatever.
Yeah.
All digital, can be done computerized. You can be working out of your
Yeah.
office in the rain and programming it to run. So I definitely see that happening in the future. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay, thank
Do you have, do you,
I'm not sure that I have direction on the future of the next.
yeah, me either. So,
Next time what? Ferry?
We started the conversation about, and I know you weighed in, but I don't think the rest of the council did, on whether we should discontinue the Ferry Festival for the 4th of July. I still don't know.
I had a couple of comments just based on Kaylee helped Tina out. Kaylee and Elena from Youth Council helped her out, and just the vision that I had is that it would be not a separate ticketed event, but it would be an added value to people that do the parking.
correct.
If you're going to do the tailgating, and part of your tailgating, and if you're going to be down here all day, it's going to be more valuable to the merchants. If your kids all get a bracelet, and that means that they can go in and play at the Fairyland all day long while they're waiting for fireworks, that's that many more hours that we're going to have customers down here for these businesses.
Well, that's the biggest complaint we've always had
So
for
I just
4th
thought
of
of it-
July. There's nothing to do down here during the day. That's the big
thing
complaint.
that
So,
when I looked down there and watched the kids playing, as I remembered as a kid going to the drive-in and playing in the little play yard waiting for the movie to start. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, is giving kids, families, and that's what 4th of July is about. It's a family day. And if we're talking about one day to let the kids play, if we've already purchased the stuff, it's already sitting there, it's not a huge extra cost.
I'm okay with it.
I just thought to let the kids play on 4th of July is, we already own the stuff.
So is it staying up between now and 4th of July?
I don't know that piece.
That's what I want to know.
That's my only piece, is that I thought that it was to use this stuff and let people play is kind of cool, but it is a month away.
And this is a long-standing tradition that whole waterfront is freed up and not blocked by fences and views and rocks and everything else, because
Well,
we'll have a ton of people, no
but-
matter what, Ferry Festival or not, we are going to have a ton of people down here.
Right.
We do every 4th.
yeah.
And
That's
don't be
exactly
fooled by
right.
that. They're not coming for the Ferry Festival.
No,
They're coming
we're
for
not
the
saying they
fireworks.
are. What
Right,
we're
but
saying is that the people,
Just in the evening.
I'm just saying.
yeah.
I've said my piece, but everybody wants to weigh in. Go ahead.
Well, what we're saying is that we're not having people in that area,
I get it.
that area, but they still have to pay to get into park and to attend and to walk in. So all we're saying is that if you've paid to park, you also get to do this extra thing during the day when there's nothing for them to
Yes,
do.
which is, if we are shooting from the island and it happens, that's prime seating right there that we're having a Ferry Festival in.
Well,
Just saying that too.
we could open it up for people to go in and watch from that location. I mean,
We'll probably, what do we generally have, about
We just-
5,000 to 6,000 people here? Downtown area?
No.
I would say we do. Absolutely, I would say we do.
Total from side to side.
Going clear from that bluff all the way over to here.
everybody watching
Yeah.
it. That's
10,000.
Okay, so even more. I said 5 to 6.
Well, if you consider all the people that are hanging on the bluffs and stuff, there's people all over
We,
this town watching.
we do
it.
have. we
They're
do-
lined up along the bluff
So,
by me.
just so you do know, though, we have 13,500 people in St. Helens alone.
and more.
Letting 'em park.
And then we have
Scappoose.
Yeah, Scappoose and surrounding areas. We
That's
probably
right.
have about 25,000.
And then don't count those neighbors across the river.
But I think the question that Doug brings up and that Rick questioned is that it is only May 16th. And that's still a month and a half away
Yeah.
for stuff to sit there unused.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the.
Well, that's one thing, that we need to discuss. It's like you don't say, okay, next week we're doing Festival of Fairies and expect anybody to come. It takes a minimum, usually, of 3 to 4 months to promote something. I mean, in the industry, we start promoting our festivals and events
So-
months in advance.
I'm
So
just sitting here and I'm thinking, that's been utilized for, you had sponsors in there last year. You had St. Helens Auto Center. You also let it use for overflow parking for 13 nights, which will all be starting.
Yeah,
in
they,
June.
well, the 13
No,
nights
wait a minute.
overflow
No, wait a
parking is by
minute.
dockside.
No, wait a minute.
On it
And
there.
it could be prime seating if we are shooting from the island. If we aren't shooting from the island, it's probably in the fallout zone or real close.
So what's
I
that
just
mean? You can't go
fallout
over there
zone
anyway?
means that's where nobody can be.
Oh, well, then no one can be there is
Then
what
you
you're
close
saying.
it in the
Yes.
evening.
Yes.
That's all.
So what, you know what I'd suggest at
It's not
this point,
seating
because
if it's in a fallout area.
we could kick this can around for
If
a
it's
long
from
time.
if it's from the island, Susan, that is prime seating. That's what I said.
Okay, but you also said it was in the fallout
It would
area,
be if
so you
if-
can't have both.
So either way, if we're shooting from the island, it's prime seating. If we're shooting from this side,
Oh, you're looking at
it's
two
in the-
options. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I see. I don't have an objection to the Fairy Festival. Just, is it going to still, are we going to move things out and then bring them back rather than have them sitting there for a month?
That's up to the city.
I think we can kick this around until our, a month from now, darn
Yeah.
near. So what I would like to propose is that the mayor and our planning council person, our community development director, and you sit down and make a decision and a plan.
Okay.
And I think
Fair
I
enough.
don't think at this point the council needs to weigh in it on yay and nay when we don't even know where the fireworks is going to
Good
go
point.
from and this and that and whatever. So if you guys can sit down and work it out, and
Well,
I think the rest of the council would be happy
Neil?
with the decision.
You're empowered.
I just wanted to make a
But we do
comment
wanna
that
know.
the moving in and moving back, that's a lot of work.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of work.
Just make sure you guys know that when you're making your decision. That's a lot
Yeah.
of public works time to move it in and move it back.
Yeah.
It's also a sore point with some of the public having it sit there.
So,
I'm not
Okay.
saying I'm not. I wish you'd had better weather. I wish you'd had a better turnout.
we had
I just-
really good turnout on the second weekend,
pretty
just so you
sure.
know.
I just know that the 4th of July always was kind of been a tradition, and this is just my personal feeling on it. If somebody else would like to, I'm not going to take Doug's recommendation. This is my council meeting. I'm not going to be involved in this getting together. If somebody else would like to take that challenge on, because I have other things I need to worry about than tourism, and I like where it goes. But I have a lot of stuff on my plate. So if somebody in this council would like to pick it up, and I'm not going to dump it on Keith because Keith always seems to pick this type of stuff up.
Well, Jenny's involved in planning, and I think that was a good suggestion.
So, yeah, I mean, to have the conversation, because I saw the event happen. I've been at every fireworks event for the last 8 years. So I've seen it shot from both places.
So who's in this committee? Jenny and John?
But it's still a council decision. That's what I don't get. I mean, right now would be the time we're doing it right now. We're discussing it. I just don't get why we're going
But
through a
if we-
process
If
right
we
now on
don't know
this.
where the fireworks are being shot, how do you know what you're going to do?
Well, that's a good question.
You want to vote on making that happen?
That's a very good
regardless?
question, and we don't know how much it's going to cost, and we don't have all these answers. We don't know, is it going to be on this side? Is that going to be in the fallout zone?
Right.
Are we going to
So
get a
how
bunch
can
of
we-
pushback from the
we
community
can't
because
make a decision unless
are we
we
going to
know
get a
what's
bunch of pushback from the community in June 1st or 3rd week of our council meeting because that's set up, and then Public Works is scrambling to tear it down because the community pushes back, and the community does speak for us. We do work for them.
Right. I'm trying to work
Okay.
for the merchants.
So just so you know.
Yeah. Me
Okay.
too.
That's why I'm asking you to make a decision. And it doesn't
Yeah.
need to be a council decision, it needs to be your decision.
The mayor doesn't want to participate in it.
Yeah. I know.
Oh, you don't want
No, no. I got other stuff I got to do, Doug. I got a lot of stuff
We'll
going
get.
on.
Let's find out first
I
things
also have-
first.
I
Where
also
the
have
fireworks
Mayor's
are going to
Retreat
be
in
shot
early
off.
July or later in July. So, I mean, I got a lot going on.
It's busy.
So we need to understand whether.
If you'd like to
yeah.
take it over,
I
okay.
just think that would be a good suggestion to expedite the
Yeah.
decision-making process.
John was speaking. I'd like to hear what he
So
said.
we need to understand that from my out my window, whether or not they can be on the island, and if the breaking it down and putting it back together, I agree completely with Public Works. That is a lot of work for one day.
Me too. That's like
And
crazy
probably
town.
a non-starter.
Yeah.
So then the question is, how long do we wait before just breaking it down sooner than later.
Yeah.
If it's not going to go up.
My thing
Yeah.
is we need to move it out of there because it needs to be opened back up to the public for what it's been used for the last 2 years. Let everybody use it.
Yeah.
We got lots of things we can do around here on the 4th of July.
So the purpose of doing that was to drive activity and energy to the waterfront, right? So help inform our potential developers' decision to.
Well, 4th of July will
keep
do
the
that
businesses
anyway.
doing well, and
4th of July, I'll do that anyway.
for sure.
That's not what we're talking about, though. Okay.
Okay.
So, any
So
other?
So we're going to take
Anything
it
else?
down.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Is that
Okay.
And-
Even if it's going to the island, is it going to be able to sit there that long, or are we going to have some interim
I
weekend?
just assume take it out. I mean, it needs to be taken out. That's my vote.
My vote is take it down too.
I think so.
Okay. Wow. There you go.
Whether it stays or whether it goes, I think that we need to think broader and think outside the box. I'm okay if it comes down, but at some point we have to decide that what we're doing as a council, what we're doing as a community, and have the best interest for our community at heart and not the interest of the 50 people that complain.
No, I'm
Because
not-
there's a lot of people that complain, and it's fine.
That
if
has
it comes
nothing to
down.
do with my decision.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I-
I understand that people.
I
might
know
have-
that there were sponsors. There was St. Helens Auto Center that used that last year.
But
And I know that it was used for parking.
But hold up. It wasn't used for parking last year. I gave you guys special permission to get in there, remember? But the parking was actually through the dockside fence. I just want to make that correction. Because we blocked that off because the fireworks
It's the
were
pull-up
being shot from this side.
No, 13 nights.
And 13 nights is through the dockside
No,
fence.
13 nights.
No,
it was-
only St. Helens Auto Center. And then we put a barricade so that they couldn't
You
come.
could actually park right on the right.
And they're not coming this year into that spot
Well,
either.
that's okay.
No, just so you
That's
know,
okay.
though.
But there was, I did park there last year, so okay.
But the gate
I'm
was
not-
open for St. Helens Auto Center, not for general parking, which was by the
Sure.
dockside. Just so
Yep.
that's really the.
But I'm not answering to 50 people. I'm answering to 13,000.
Just my opinion. I get to have a voice as well.
Yes. And I'm mostly interested in where the fireworks are going to be shot off from.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's
All right. Any?
Nope.
Do I get a turn?
Yeah, you can have a turn.
There was a point where I was amazed at how much energy and consumption of time that these tourism events take, but I'm not amazed anymore.
Yeah, I was on schedule. Hey,
Just
I was on schedule.
That is long gone. Yeah, a number of things. Thanks to Public Works for the expeditious replacement of the very tired gazebo roof down there. The roof's it's actually being done right now. It's will match the bathrooms roofs. And it looks a lot nicer just already. So a couple things with the building department. We're looking forward on June 1st to our new building official joining us, and it's been a kind of a rough go in this interim period with relying on Scappoose and the county and other consultants to kind of coordinate all that to get some pretty big projects out the door in the middle school and things of that nature. Talk about grants for a minute here. There is a Department of Land Conservation and Development in an effort to kind of solve some of the state's housing needs or crisis, some people would call it that. Put out a bunch of funding for housing needs, grant funding, but it didn't say specifically until you got into the details that it was a housing needs analysis. And I think I received and forwarded half a dozen emails on this grant funding, but we have that application prepared and ready to submit, and needs mayor's signature on it. And it's on my desk. I forgot to bring the packet in. The Tiger is a federal grant, transportation improvement grant program that was abolished last cycle, and in its replacement is a new program called Build America, and essentially pretty well the same, except with the positive exception for rural communities. There's think it's a 30% allocation of those funds go towards rural communities. And these types of grants are very complicated. If you've ever been around a community development block grant or HUD or one of the big, they're binders practically, some of these applications. And our project that we were hoping to do a Build America grant was for the boardwalk, design and construction of the boardwalk being the next catalytic project. We also have some interest in the state, trying to get some state money to do that too. But this would be the big ask. And we've reached out to a consultant that specializes in these types of things. Transportation grants are pretty, there's a metric out there that is ever evolving, and they change the standards, and you really have to dial it in. So we would like to have some consulting help with the preparation of the application. Now, we've had pretty good success on our own, but this is of the level where it's multi-millions, so you really want it to be combed out and pressed and polished. And so we're asking for support with that. It would come out of the funds for the waterfront.
Community development.
Yeah. Related to that, the St. Helens, our census tract was selected as one of the 86 in the state that could be moved forward to the governor's approval to the feds for an opportunity zone, which allows a pretty significant amount of different style of investment, foreign investment, and just investment in general into communities. So we're working with Eco Northwest and our developer and some other partners coming together and really trying to understand what that means, and it may actually be a really positive thing for the waterfront development.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. So, Councilor Morton talked about the communications piece that we got an earful the other day about communicating events and things, and went back and took a look at our website and how the connection between our website and Discover Columbia County is really, it should be more front and center, that we have events, and rather than having visitors or tourists, we should have events on the front page. So we'd like to it's already there, the information is there, but it just needs a different title on the button and get us straight into a connection of that website and integrate the Discover Columbia County website with the city's website. They should have a little more look and feel, so we'd like to work with our communications officer on that. And perhaps lastly, I talk about the Sand Island camping conversation that we've been having ongoing. There's a lot of moving parts to that, but a couple that I wanted to hit on. There was a question at a few meetings ago whether or not the camping fees would be subject to the transient room fee, and the answer is yes. So they would be subject to those room fees. And the other is the dock stay, and I fleshed out a pretty good framework, I believe, for the permitting system. If we're going to move forward with this revision of our regulations on the permit, being you'd have to provide your owner information, the current registration, and some rules of conduct. You'd be subject to some rules of conduct that would be written on the permit, and also a nominal fee. There's only by the Marine Board a charge of $2 fee. So, but related to that is the issue that we have now, where it's this 5 days and 30 days, and it seems to get pretty gamed. And the system is, they come on 5 days, leave for a day, come back for 5 days, and then they're gone for a while, and then come back, and it's, would a different metric be a better option? I don't know. We need an answer today, but something like a 72-hour parking rule or something where you might see in a these things have to be moving. They don't just come in free mortgage for 10 days, pretty much. So I would ask that the council think about that. If you have any ideas, it'd be great. So.
Do you have, to go along with that, do you have information? I saw a report on the news that Portland Harbor is seizing boats now for dumping sewage into the river. And I don't know what area that covers, and whether people out here, because I know some of those pirated boats are part of the issue is why they can't moor is because they're not properly hooked up. They're dumping wastewater and everything else in the river. And that, you can't park anywhere and do that for even an hour. So I just wondered, I saw it on, I don't know whether it was Channel 6 or Channel 8 News, that they were actually seizing boats for dumping sewage into the river.
And we have a dump station here, and that really helps a lot. Because
Well,
I
just
think
on the
anyone
way
who is cruising from Portland to the coast, and they happen to have their tank full, will come into this facility, as well as some others. But that's a big advantage of having a dump facility here, and that helps a lot. Boy, if you're going to try and enforce that, that's really tough to do, because you have to board the vessel, you have to pour dye down the facility, and flush and make certain nothing comes out into the water. That's a tedious kind of thing, and it includes boarding a vessel. And I think the way out of that is that if someone complains about that kind of illegal flushing, is that they have to go to the police or to the sheriff, to the marine people, and be there as they go through the complaint. And so it's pretty tedious, and it's probably why it's happening a lot too. But in any moorage that I know of, if that happens, it's immediate expulsion from the moorage in the Portland areas.
Just any tool that we have to eliminate the transient boater issue that creates a crime element that really drives boat customers away from our community.
Well, on my report on Sand Island, it's going to dovetail into John's, and I'll talk about that in just a bit.
Okay.
So yeah, there's more about the Sand Island to talk about. But the lastly, I've been communicating back and forth with the Marine Board on, asking the question of what it would take to allow small cruise vessels to tie up to the outer dock, whether that's a financial, buy them out, or there's some legislative fix, or there's probably some structural issues too we need to address. But your Portland Spirit, some of those boats, or there's a number of vessels coming up down the river that have expressed interest over the years of wanting to stop, and we just can't say yes. So.
Good.
And it seems to be going positively. So.
Good.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Enough.
Thanks, Tina.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, John. Councillor Locke.
Sure you want me first?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
this meeting ain't gonna stop early.
no.
I can tell.
Their Cascades is working on the car fire. Hopefully it'll be done within a month. They'll be back online. They're cleaning up the brown paper from the parking lot. So hopefully within a month or so, that'll be cleaned up and looking better.
Good.
Working with Comcast to get a data line into the ACSP company so that they can get their OLCC permit. And the other part of that is we still don't have a contract ready. So if anybody would like to call Robert Corey from Jordan Ramus and give him a little encouragement on getting our contract finished, I would appreciate that. I don't know why it's taken so long, but it's a holdup here. So the other thing, Ken, I think he showed up at our last meeting about the canoe. Willow Bill is going to be here in the middle of June.
He was on my thing. He wants to do a running dogs, Captain Locke. That's what he's calling it, by the way.
I know, and I will probably be out of town. If it's Sunday, I can make Sunday evening late, so I may show up there late Sunday evening, yes. But anyway, Ken is going to be here tonight with their itinerary and kind of what their plans are to take the canoe up the river and down the river and whatnot. Something to think about as to what we really want to do with the canoe. I've been sort of the keeper of it for, what are we on, 13 years, I think, something like that. Yeah, at least 12 years. It's still in premium shape, so to speak. We've been kind of refinishing it every year to cover up the scratches and whatnot that it gets out on the river, and being here and there, whatnot. It has a legacy. It has, a value to this community because it was, there was like 600 and some kids helped build that canoe from this community, a couple hundred adults. It does have a, I think, artistic value and a legacy value for this city. I would like to see it sitting somewhere, 100 years from now in some place, whatnot. So we need to decide how we're going to take care of that canoe and what we really want it to do. And not saying that Willow doesn't. I mean, he values it just as much as I do because he has a lot of time and energy into it. But being that said, you never know what's going to happen when you're out on the Columbia River. It could not show up back again someday. So you need to think about that.
So the question is whether is Ken coming to us for approval of this trip?
They've got 2 more meetings, but he's coming for, to ask approval and what he needs, what extra he needs from you guys for information, to find out whether we have insurance on it or how much that is, and all of those things, yes. So you guys need to think about what questions you want to ask him. And
do we have insurance on it, and is it just covering the canoe, or is it covering liability for taking it out of the river?
I don't think we have anything on it right now. The foundation used to have some insurance on it, and I'm not sure exactly what that covered. I know it didn't cover the people in it. The foundation used to have. We had a form that everybody was supposed to sign when they got in it, a waiver of liability insurance and whatnot. So those are all things that you guys need to talk about, and Ken will be explaining some of it here tonight.
What would you consider the money value of that? I mean, fairly easy just to add to, I think, our insurance, but Iverson's going to want to know what
the canoe itself, to replace it, would probably be at least 10 to 15 grand, something like that. And then you got the legacy value of it and the artistic value of it. So
I think an appropriate thing for this council to do is suggest that the Arts and Cultural Committee look at that and accept responsibility for it. And the desire would be to put that canoe on display in a display case in the Riverfront District as we develop the Riverfront District. Find a place for it and keep it there.
And that's what they were
and that way, I think that it's looked at as a arts and cultural inventory. It has historical significance. It has aesthetic significance and cultural significance. I think that would be, and it would be placed on the waterfront. I think that would be a very appropriate place for it.
Well, luckily right now, Lisa from the Arts and Cultural Commission is interested in the canoe. So
Good.
She's going to be...
And she's not alone. There was discussion about it yesterday, too.
Yeah, so that was kind of the road I was thinking about going down also, so whatnot. But used to be the foundations, and now it belongs to this committee.
Well,
so you need to
and
think
we've
about
discussed before the idea of having it displayed down on the waterfront someplace.
Yes.
As things.
I mean, the
It's
part of the
temporary
vision
storage,
was always to have maybe a cultural center down here or whatever, a convention center or art center or whatever, and that would be a perfect place for it. But so
But until
we
then,
get
maybe it
something
needs
like
to
that.
retire from the river, huh?
Yeah. Well,
definitely.
So the real value, though, I hear you saying the historical value, but the real value, 10 to 15?
To just replace the canoe.
Yes.
Yeah, probably 15.
We have to know that for Chris.
And,
to get it.
well, I mean...
I know.
I
Captain Lock,
I look
Willow
at it as being
Bill,
priceless,
kids, and
That's
to me
mediocre
it's
compared
priceless.
to the liability of taking that down
That's
the river.
that's the other piece too. is
That's
the
the
liability.
huge one.
Yeah.
Because that can be
And
millions
that's
of dollars
where the
in a
insurance was
lawsuit.
really sticky about,
Right.
was the liability piece of it. Yes.
It's an important educational resource, and I think that's what they're going to present. But maybe there's another way of using it as an educational resource rather than taking it out on the river.
So
Quick question for this year. If we decided to let them use it, is there any waiver we could just have them sign,
Boardwalk.
or would we
Well,
still be held accountable? John?
Ken's going to be bringing in the waiver that
Yeah.
the foundation handed out or had
Either
everybody
have-
sign,
maybe in
but
our
they then,
additional park area.
as far as the like Willow and the guys who took the canoe, they never actually signed anything. So
Could you have Judge Phillips maybe look that over and once they bring that in and see if that's looks like it would.
Well, what I think would say is that we'll sign whatever waiver we want. That's not going to immune us from some kind of a lawsuit.
If we're not protecting ourselves, then there is no way it's happening.
right.
You
So
know?
like say,
Certainly don't want another Cannon case of the Cannon.
Yes.
yeah. So it's going to be contentious when Willow gets here. You know how he is. So anyway, and then so other than those, so the court meetings that we've had 2 so far. Jeff, the DA from there, has been to both meetings. The first meeting, what's her name? Zoe and Alex were here the first meeting, and then Jennifer Grant came the second meeting because Alex couldn't make it and Zoe was ill for the day. So kind of what we've really talked about is how do we help each other and how do we make all of our courts better for the community and work together and whatnot. And is there any way of possibly us lightening their load because they don't get any of their money. We've talked about how is there any way that we can lighten their load? We take on the cases and then we get the money for those loads to help us run our court maybe 3 days a week instead of 2 days a week to make it more pliable to run it or whatever the case would be. So those are things we've talked about. I'm sitting there all the time. Of course, you get all these legality people sitting there talking about things, and I'm sitting there thinking out of the box. I go, nothing's off the table here. Let's look out of the box and see what we can do. But main thing is how do we make the courts better? We came up with some good ideas there. They're judges. They do talk to each other, and they use some tools that we don't use over here. I think we may use some tools they don't use. They were very much in favor of having like a quarterly meeting that their judges and our judge and prosecutor will get together, sit down, not just the judges, but also the police force, the sheriff's office, somebody from those places, whatnot, all sit down and talk about how can we make the whole system work better. And the main thing is because right now somebody may not like this court, that court. There's tickets out on the river that are being sent to Vernonia, which is just crazy. So how do we get to where all the law enforcement out there, they don't care which court they send it to because they all work the same. So those are kind of the talks we've been going down.
Good. Good work.
So, and that's it until we get into executive session.
Okay. Jenny?
I had a big list, but a lot of it's been talked about. But just kind of touching on, I know that we're working on the Parks and Rec. I went to a presentation at the high school last night. The school has had some active threats, some near threats, some different events at the school where the kids have been locked down, that kind of thing. That's pretty scary as a parent and with what's going on in the world. And they did a presentation that involves law enforcement that is all funded through a foundation where someone lost their child through a shooting and is leading this. And I spoke briefly with Scott Stockwell, and that's just part of what they're doing is they're having a mental health piece, they're having a security piece, the Parks and Rec piece. It's really looking at capturing a lot of the youth that we're losing to a lot of not so pleasant things, whether it be drugs, alcohol, or mental health issues. So it just gave me encouragement, the more partnership we can do with the schools. And talking, the Parks and Rec current representative came to Youth Council this last week and talked to them The youth council was here, was very excited, wanted to engage with the city and do things for the middle schoolers, and I was just very encouraged to see what we're doing presented to kids and see how the kids feel about it, not just adults. So that was really positive for me. Just wanted reiterate what Terry said. What Judy does for mental health in our community there aren't words big enough to say how much she's changed how people view people that struggle with mental health. Just want to thank her any way I can, every opportunity I can. And just as a side note, and in talking about the parks we have in our community, the parks are named for a reason, and I'd like to know more about why they're named what they are. And I think that if we're going to redo or look at a parks brochure, people should know why the park next to the senior center is named what it is, more about that person, why Gray Cliffs. A lot of our parks are historic, and there's a reason why they're named what they are. And as somebody that's been traveling all over within an hour and a half of us, a lot of communities capitalize on the historic value of their resources. And I don't think that we're maximizing our Lewis and Clark connection, and not just saying Gray Cliffs Park, say that this is referenced in Lewis and Clark's journals, and this is why it's called Gray Cliffs. It's, talk about those things. Because when people like me or like tourists or traveling are, Googling what's here to see, they would be able to find all those Lewis and Clark references, because it would all be, people would know that history. And I just don't think that's easily accessed here, and I don't think we've capitalized on that as much as other communities have. And people ask me why that Heine Human, they ask me, who is this guy, why is it named that? And I couldn't answer that question other than they gave us the property for a park, is my best description, and there probably should be a better description than that. So I just thought that there's more resources to do. As we're promoting Parks and Rec, we probably could beef that up and know more about why our parks, how they came into being, and the history of those people. And people are really hungering for history, and they want to know where we came from and why we are and what do we stand for. And I think St. Helens stands for a lot.
The parks, state parks has a, since we are a certified local government, has applications for those signage things, and we did put them down here on the waterfront here once we became a CLG,
Right.
certified local government. And so those are available through grants that we can place. There are also some that got placed over on Sand Island. And interesting enough, you bring up Gray Cliffs, because we had that conversation about naming that park. And it was, one of the considerations was Wyeth, off of Wyeth Street. And I don't know if you've been on Highway 30, but out towards Rocky Point, or out towards the beyond Rocky Point, and towards the
golf course.
Past the golf course. There's a historical marker there, and it's for Wyeth, who had a ferry that went over to Sophie Island and back. That's where he operated the ferry, and there was a big, strong concern about naming Gray Cliffs Waterfront Park Wyeth Waterfront Park. And so the council took a vote, and it ended up being Gray Cliff Waterfront Park. So that's how that happened. I know that's, and that was referenced in Lewis and Clark's journals as well. I just thought because it was parks, thought I'd say something.
I know Doug has all the history, but and seeing how, Gresham in particular, Tualatin, has really gone like the extra 100 miles to beef up their description of their parks and really make it an educational experience. And I know that Jenny's done a lot of work, Doug's done a lot of work, Keith, but it's just, we can always do more. So that's all I got.
Okay.
I'll bring that to the Parks Commission as well, to look at going after some of those grants for signage.
Councillor Khan?
Arts and cultural update. Kanika Peterson has submitted her resignation from ACC on May 10th, and this will leave an opening to be filled on the ACC board, which will be discussed at the next meeting. I'd like to thank Kanika for all of her years of service to the Arts and Cultural Commission. She showed great leadership. She made many contributions to bring a broader perception of art to our community, and she made a personal investment of a lot of time and talents, and I wish her well. We had an art, culture, and conversation event yesterday at Starbucks, and these are monthly community art chats with hands-on activities to go with it. And this time the activity was This Is Us project. The topic was, what kind of art and creative projects do you want in St. Helens? And this is, to my mind, I missed one, but I've been at the rest, and it was the best attended conversation event to date. It included representatives of the Arts and Cultural Commission, the Columbia Arts Guild, and there were some new local, or they're not new artists, but they were new to us, local artists interested in being involved. It was a really spontaneous group. They had many ideas and suggestions to be explored, including a focus on cultures and the history of landmarks and buildings. They were talking about storytelling. They were talking about all kinds of different art projects. They were just brimming over with ideas, and so it was pretty cool. I'm excited about the discovery of new local talents that want to be involved, and both in art and in event organizing. And they're just out there looking for an opportunity to participate, new to the area. I have a request. I'd like to move the mission statement to where we can all see it, maybe over there.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important for us to all be able to keep that in mind in any decisions we're making, that this is the community that we're making these decisions about. These are the
There did used to be one
guidelines. Yeah.
Is there any
And
idea where the other one is?
I want to see it.
It's still framed just like that. Oh, it's over in our court department. It was sitting up over there.
Can we have a third one then?
We can have as many as you like.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah,
I just want us to keep it in mind.
The space on this wall where you guys used to have that huge map, Jacob is it's on his list of things to do is to do a more updated map. So that will come back eventually whenever Jacob has time to do that.
Somehow I want a reminder for us.
But even if it's
Right.
over here, because Councilor Locke and Carlson can probably see that one pretty well. Even if it's there in the maps over there.
Yeah, originally you had one here and one on that wall. So yeah, we can definitely do that.
Thank you. And as far as the courts, thinking of a maritime reference, tighten the ship before we take on more. Perhaps we could have an independent legal consultant come in and analyze the systems that we have now as to best practices and effective and
Actually, Zoe
efficient.
just sent us an email about that.
Effective and efficient
Have an
operation. What?
analysis. Zoe just sent us an email about hiring an analysis of our courts. Yes.
Yeah, I think we should do that before we take on anything else. Before we make any decisions even on it. We need to know whether we're operating at peak efficiency. And if we are, cool. Then we can go from there. And that's it.
Okay. Council President Morton.
Yeah, I responded recently to a request that asked me to be present with John and Crystal as we met with some concerned business owners, and we met at the bistro, and we had a couple of those business owners there voicing some concerns about specific issues, and I just aired my communication concerns with Tina because it involved her and her department. So while she was here, I wanted to kind of get it to Tina what they talked about. And all this is a report from what we heard. And it does involve several departments. So that was Tina's department, is more effective communication through pamphlets and through giveaways and whatever. So not only the business owners knew what was going on, but they could pass those things out to anyone who was asking, hey, what's going on down here and what's happening, whatever. So I thought that was pretty good. And it was fairly positive. Of course, there was a bit of ranting for a while about how their businesses suffer and all of that, and that's why they call that meeting.
Can I touch on that for a second?
Yeah.
Several years ago, we we had a parking study done down here. Do you remember that, Sue? Neil? I believe it was like 12 years ago.
Well, they just
because we were having the same issue with all the merchants down here, so we had a parking study done, and it came up that we had plenty of parking down here, and the problem was the merchants parking in front of their own stores. So if we can somehow find that study and get it out.
You just did my report. I was going to talk about parking. Go ahead.
No, so go ahead. No, I was just bringing up that we had the report. That's all I wanted to say.
And you should have.
Great minds think alike, Doug.
Oh yeah.
That's all
like,
it is.
It's like I was going to express their concern, and their concern was that dealt with Public Works, and I met with Public Works to ask them how much this would cost, and so I wanted to relate that to you as well. But what they were wanting was a day use parking lot at the end of Strand Street, which Public Works and Engineering already studied and presented to the council back in February, if we recall. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to revisit that and say, isn't it possible that we could take that fence down at the end of Strand Street and just kind of wrap around and have a parking lot back there that could be a city parking lot for day use only. Maybe residents that park there, if maybe they could do the evening by permit, but I'm not certain. They just want more parking. Now, I didn't know whether to believe them or not in many senses about the parking issues, and I did believe that looking at Strand Street, the people who go in there diagonally can hardly get out, and it is very dangerous to get out, and I would think that this is kind of a safety issue as well for me, and I started thinking about this. It alleviates some concerns that I have about people hitting each other and possibly running over a pedestrian and backing out and not being able to see where they're going. So I went down on Sunday, on Mother's Day, and I couldn't find a parking spot. So I went over towards the dockside and over towards the Klondike, no parking. I thought about going up Cowlitz Street. I looked up there and I go, I'm not so sure I could park in front of that residence or not. So I ended up coming back on down and going over to this parking lot over here in the county courthouse. I believe them. I believe that there is an issue of parking affecting their businesses. If I had some elderly people, so I had to drop them off there and then go park the car. So I think there is a problem. So when I talked to our city engineer, Sue Nelson, and she said, this could probably cost $10,000 or $15,000 to get a parking lot fenced in, and it could facilitate maybe 20 or 30 cars, something like that. I'm not certain what we came up with in terms of account. But just opening that up down below the antique store and around, fencing it, keeping it gravel, and signage for being temporary until development starts to happen on a riverfront development. That is key, because we don't want to set a precedent of making a parking lot and then once development starts, having to be stuck with that parking lot because the citizens have been used to parking there, whatever. So, but the development's going to have to facilitate parking when it gets developed. So if signage happens with that it is temporary, and when development starts on a riverfront development district, when it actually becomes brick and mortar, then that parking lot's going to go away or be used possibly for other kinds of issues. So that was their concern. And so I'm just relating that back to the council, and it would cost in the neighborhood of $10,000 to $15,000 to facilitate that kind of parking in that area. It does affect all the residents down in that area, which are more than I ever thought. 5 to 6 restaurants, if we count Running Dogs, at 6. It affects a lot of people, and especially the restaurants. And I personally felt that on Sunday, and that gives more pertinence to my report on that.
May I ask a question about it? Would it be possible for this temporary lot to have temporary access also from First Street, so that
no, that would be.
usable from there
I think
too?
we talked about that, and I talked about that with our city engineer. That would cause huge problems because First Street then it would be a thoroughfare, and it would be gravel.
Yeah.
And people would be driving through there, so then it would open up as a city street, and it's not a city street.
But it would allow parking from either street, and it would make it more accessible for the things
It's not a
on
city street.
First Street.
So we'd have to
It's
go
a parking
through,
lot.
We'd have to go through. We'd have to go through that kind of thing. Sue, maybe you can talk about that more.
Yeah, if it was going to connect through, it would become a quasi right of way.
It's not just a parking lot with entrances in 2 places.
No, and if we did something along that lines, it would be a more permanent type of feature.
No, I wasn't thinking of permanent. I was thinking
I
temporary.
understand that, but if you connect it through so you have access from 2 public rights of way, you're creating a whole different type of situation.
Why does that make it permanent?
It makes it more of a quasi permanent because you've got it's really almost making it a street right of way with parking on both sides, which means street improvements. And the other issue with making it temporary, it would have to be almost a special use permit type of thing that would have an expiration date on it, or else it would, because of the planning regulations, we don't want to get into a situation where we're not following our own rules that say we have to pave the parking lots. And that's been a problem with trying to look at other parking locations in this downtown area, is that they have to be paved if we're making them an actual parking lot.
Okay, if it's entered by automobile from just one area, can we gate the other side so that people can walk through?
Yeah, I would suggest that, yes,
Okay.
there would be pedestrian access
That'd have the same effect.
on all different directions, so that you could access up onto First Street, not around from the end of First Street where where there's current access, vehicle access onto the Boise property, but the little 40-foot right-of-way that runs next to the attorney office house down there.
Okay, that'd have the same effect.
I asked a question about the pedestrian right-of-way from First Street over to the Strand, and there is an alleyway there that could be utilized, but I think the merchants are
private.
looking at who owns that and if there's an easement for pedestrians to walk through.
Who owns the Gracie's building? Because there's that area that they also own behind it that is right on
Michael owns it.
First Street. Elliot Michael? Maybe Elliot
think-
Michael would like
I
to put in a
can't-
parking lot.
I don't know.
I'm not certain. So anyway, that's my report. If we want to talk about it and make it a council action item, I would suggest putting it on the agenda for our next council meeting so that we can discuss that. Maybe we could have Public Works look into it in terms of a specific cost and just see where we go.
Did you check our city lot over here, Doug? Was it full? Behind?
I didn't, but I should have. But I was so close to down here. I came down here to see if there was anything in here, and so I just kind of looked over there and saw some spaces, so I went around.
Kind of a long walk from there down to Strand.
Well, whatever. Anyway, that's the nature of that report. And then I just want to update on Sand Island real quick, and on June 6th, I think Andrew and Brad would like to make a presentation to the council about their pitch for management of Sand Island camping. And so, tell you what we have thus far. And it is developed 50 sites. They're going to have to need, there's already 33 or 34 campsites over there, and there's already parking established for those sites. So for the 50 sites, they're going to need, I think, 13 more parking sites. So we talked a lot about parking areas and that kind of thing to facilitate the campers. The wonderful thing is that it's going to echo the state parks fees and the state parks management of the parks. So it's all going to be camping over there, and day use is fine. Matter of fact, they will be running a shuttle to shuttle our citizens over for $5 person, and for use of day use. With an age limit of 18 if you're single, or if you're 16 or 17 and want to go over, no, you got to have a parent or an adult with you. So there was that. And what else do I have for that? Oh, for the state parks, it's around $30 a night. So they anticipate putting all the financials together and giving the council the financial breakdown of and any of the lease arrangements were talked about. But I think all of those things would be in place for their presentation. And to me, that was really a good thing. I was going to get a hold of you, but I had Keith. Had a couple phone calls into Keith, and I anticipated him being there. We talked about it, but he had a conflict, and I wanted you to be there. So I apologize for not at the last second saying, "Hey, get over here," because I got late response on that
No,
too.
I look forward to these guys presenting us with.
Yeah.
And like hearing the progress they're making so
Yeah,
far.
so we are making a lot of progress, and I would really, really like to see Sand Island camping at Sand Island, and they want to get with it and work for a deadline of this summer.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Is it 50 sites including the 30 current sites, or in addition to the 30 current sites, making 80?
Say that again.
Is that 50 inclusive of the 30 that we already have, or is that 50 plus those
50
30?
total.
50 total, okay, including those.
Yeah,
Okay.
so 50 total. We already have 34 or 33 campsites over there vaguely. So that's it.
That's
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Let's look at that. Just want to remind citizens that you have a few more days to burn. You need to go get a burn permit from the fire department. I know that last year, the little window some people complained about, and if you're watching this and you happen to be seeing it, you still have this weekend, and then time's up. So I had the Girl Scouts troop, dear Council Member Scholl, we are Girl Scout troop number 10333, based out of St. Helens. We are writing and asking to ask permission to hang a few small bird troop decorated wooden birdhouses in the trees at McCormick Park. As a troop, we have been earning a Journey Award by learning about small and large animal habitats. As we learn about animals, we found out that we can help take care of our animals and their habitats. Our troop colored small wooden birdhouses in hopes that small birds would use the lovely houses for their home. And it was actually handwritten and then retyped by the mom. So
Great
They've done it in the past.
Wonderful.
They've done it in the past, because when my daughter was in Girl Scouts, they did it actually in the park, and then parks staff helped them hang them.
I just thought it was very cute, and I wanted to bring it to council, and I haven't called them yet. But I
And we'll
wanted to
be
bring-
needing pictures.
So I have a number to call, and is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right.
Oh, I had one thing for Sand Island. One of the things that John suggested and I think talked about. But with all the things that, in terms of the management of the campground, whatever, they would manage also the boats and this dockage and the 2 dockages over there. So if anyone tried to play the game of trying to get around our ordinance of so many days here, well, they're going to go around and manage all of that. That's huge. I mean, it's huge to manage that kind of thing, and that's one of the. I saw Terry over there, and some of those responsibilities, in a sense, that fell in your department and Public Works, and with code enforcement, and now I think it's all inclusive. If we go forward with this, and they manage that, it relieves a big burden for our staff, I think.
Okay. Yep. Okay. And then I just want to make sure that we passed a resolution for the ferry, feasibility. So I just want to continue to talk about it so it stays on my forefront of my mind. And then I got written down. We already talked a little bit about tourism, but I'm just concerned about the time that it is taking from our staff, and that we have a ton of stuff going on, big things as a city. I mean, we've got St. Helens Industrial Park. We are losing Armstrong. They just stopped production last week. We have Riverfront Connectors. I just want to make sure that we stay focused on the bigger items. We have hired a consultant to take care of that, and that's where it needs to stay. And we need to continue to keep our eye on the prize and continue to work towards these bigger projects. And so I just want to throw that out there as a concern of mine, an outsider maybe looking in, because I'm not here daily. That could be an issue. So, and then the Boardwalk Public Works, big thank you from a lot of people in the community about what you did on that gravel down there. They are just
so much better.
It's so complimentary of that.
So much better. I've been out there walking now. Way better.
And I think that's all. Other things, the Willow Bill and a few other things that were discussed. Oh, one last thing was the sign on the St. Helens Industrial Park. Are we waiting on a conceptual drawing for that, or are we? I'm just curious of what's going on with that. I'm not sure.
I'm waiting for Keith and his can of spray paint.
And I'm in favor of that.
So that was the last thing on my list. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll take a little bit of a break. We'll call this adjourned. And we're going into executive session here in just a bit.